Okay. The last parts were like really serious stuff with analysis and like really going deep into understanding the data that you collected. Now I would like to talk about the other side of the spectrum, which is the creative approach and like being more frivolous with the things that you are doing. So I'd like to start with a definition. If you look at in dictionaries, you can see that creative means relating to or involving the imagination or original ideas in the production of an artistic work, creative writing. So it's basically originative, original, constructive, and productive. So often when people start thinking about being creative, they think that they go crazy with having lots of ideas, which don't lead to anything. So the idea is that in order to be creative, it has to have some tangible value. So it needs to be something that you can actually build, create, test, and so on. So this is an important thing to remember, that this is not only about having great imagination, but this is about bringing the things that you imagine into the real world to test them against the perceptions of people. So my question to you guys is like, is creativity a soft skill? Yeah, No, it's more like, like that. It's like social skills. They are soft, right? Like you sort of know how to behave. Is it something that's really? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but is it a soft skill or a hard skill? Is it something you sort of have, or is it something you develop? Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. So soft skill, hard skill? Both? Neither?
If social skills are a soft skill, then it's a soft skill.
Uh-huh.
Soft skill seems to be still something that you can learn and improve. It's just, you can't turn into an algorithm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, it's more the definition of what soft and hard skills are.
Okay. But so you think that this is a combination, yeah? Yeah? And to me, it's neither. It's of course that's just a personal opinion, so you can totally disagree with what I'm saying. But for me, creativity is like you said, like an awareness. This is something that it's not a skill at all. It's just who you are. It's just part of you. Like you, Jonathan, said that as kids we do have this creativity and the skill of being creative, and then they sort of kill it for us. I'm going to show you a presentation of Ken Robinson, one of my favorite ones. And there are two, like, so I took the newer one. But honestly, like, I can watch this presentation forever, like over and over and over again. I love it. Also for the style of this guy. I don't know if you ever listened to any of his TED Talks. No? Okay, so it's gonna be, yeah. But basically, this is like, creativity for me is like a state of mind, which is like, you just look at like, remember when I was telling you that what Marcel Proust said, that creativity or like being innovative, it's not about going to different places, but to see world with different eyes. So this is exactly that. Like that you look at things and you see things that are not necessarily there. Like for example, we are walking around Christchurch, and I noticed an amazing thing that some of the road signs, some people like glue things to them, and these things are really cool. Like for example, the one over here has like a boar walking on a bump. I'll show you. I think I have it still here. This one, yeah. So how absolutely cool is that? Yeah, we didn't take a photo of it yet. An Asian face, yeah. But so basically there are like tons of these kind of things that surround us. Like I can show you another example. Yeah, yeah. But look at this guy. This guy is also ultimately creative. He just took his board, and it must have been taken. It's somewhere in New Zealand, and just used it as a it's a skateboard, and he's hanging his backpack on it as it was like a hanger, and then just looks for something in the backpack. So you know, like he basically constructed a hanger in an public space. So these things are like all over us. And first of all, one thing is to be able to see them, to have the state of mind that you can notice them and get inspired by them. But the other thing is to also kind of be able to create them, to see this bump as a hat of a Chinese man or a heel that the boar can walk on. So just looking. This whole thing is just looking with different eyes, and this is also a method to approach the way you work. So you can, especially like when I talk to Christoph, he's a very quantitative person. So he measures things and then he derives some conclusions out of it. And this is one way to do it. But the other way can be to create crazy stuff and just test it with people and to and check whether like how they react to it and how they respond to it and then learn from that. So this is like kind of a trial and error approach rather than very meticulous walk through consecutive steps of a certain process. Both are great. It's just like this is one of them, it's just that this is not a skill. This is the important thing. I think that at least for me, creativity is all these things. And of course, you can learn some of them. You can train yourself in some of them. So elements of creativity can be trainable, like you can learn them, but creativity itself is something that's going on in your head. So yeah, I already said that the true voyage of discovery is not to go to new places, but to have other eyes. And this is something that I really, truly believe in. And when I'm looking at the different works of different people, like Mark was showing you this fridge that you have to smile at in order to open it. This is exactly it. It's just again looking with other eyes on something as mundane as a freaking fridge is. So and there are like millions of these kind of examples. Actually, I can show you a few of them. I need to find it on Facebook. With what? Yeah. Oh, there you go. Do you know Board Panda, by the way? Oh, check it out! Like this is one cool stuff going on over there. Like, and I love the name Board Panda. But basically, things. So 25 truly useful inventions that you never knew you needed. So these are also this looking with different eyes on things. So one is that's more feminine. Like you have a ironing board, which you can turn into a mirror. You have a rolling bench, which is, I think that this is one great idea. It's just, oh yeah. So basically, yeah, you get it dry after rain. You have hourglass LED traffic lights. This is freaking awesome.
That'd be drag race every time.
Yeah. No.
You have to display in a way. I have one person
Oh, really? Oh, pretty cool. Yeah, because like this is like this waiting for the light to turn is like the most boring thing and most annoying thing you can imagine, right? You just, yeah. So another one is like universal wrapping paper. So basically, you kind of choose the letters that indicate the message that you want to convey. Cup holder umbrella. I think that this is fantastic. It's just like, mobile phone, coffee, and an umbrella in the Netherlands. You can't hold all of it, and like while still biking, by the way. So that solves some of the problems. Toothpaste tube squeezer. Baby stroller and scooter hybrid. I think that this is fantastic. Mirror wiper, as freaking simple. Yeah, but like I always do this, and then like the mirror looks all dirty. Spaghetti measuring tool. Actually, in I don't know if you can buy them in here, but in Poland, in Europe, you really have those kind of measuring tools for spaghetti portions. This one I love. Lego power outlet. Citrus squeezer. Yeah, spritzer. Yeah. Dresser that keeps your clothes in their places. Pizza scissors. This stuff you can also buy in Europe. This is like totally available. This became a common thing. Like those wooden arms for putting cups. If you have a cat, I think that your cat would love that. This one you can also buy. This is like a product that I think that whoever has or will have babies will love that. Okay, that's a little simpler, and yeah, something like yeah. Little silly, but makes sense.
So you walk away with the key, so that it just rains out the bottom.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. So onion holder, ring think bottle opener. So basically, you have like something like this for parties. Okay, inside out umbrella. Yeah. And reusable candle. So basically, the candle burns, and then the wax goes down, and then you have another candle again. Yeah. So these are all examples of the things that are just seen with different eyes. And basically, for me, the creativity is like this bag or like basket full of fruits and things that surround you, and it's really totally up to you what you create out of it. So this is this way of making the connections that are not as obvious for everybody else. I had this reflection yesterday at this workshop this brainstorm that we attended, that majority of the ideas were exactly the same. For me, there was not really much triggering of new ideas. So that's something that I use often for creative process. But the thing is that people turn to think in the exact same ways, and you really need to have a different perspective, something that breaks through in order to start thinking look at the problem from a different perspective. So again, a question to you. Are some people more creative than others? Yes? And you agree or disagree?
Everybody has some
Okay.
It's about observation. How good their observation is, how they can modify changes the product selection.
Mm-hmm.
These and make these changes which
Mhm. Yeah. I would also say that at least looking at all these three guys, do you know who the third one is, by the way? Franklin. Stubborn dudes. Like you need a huge dose of stubbornness and sort of believe that what you are doing is correct. And often, like, you cannot really explain why, but then you know that it is the way to go. So this is something that these three had really in common. So the question is again, like, why? If you think that they are more creative, why are they more creative? What makes them more creative? Except from stubbornness. That's more universal.
Some people get like they get into a routine where they've found something that works for them, like they use it to make money, and like that's kind of generally what people see as what they want out of life.
Mm-hmm.
So they found this thing which enables them to make money. It could have been something creative to begin with, but then maybe they're just stuck with it and no longer need to develop the creative instincts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how they live their life out. Because it's successful, it's making money, it's improving.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, people with creativity that they can keep using. So,
Mhm.
like designers who are working to their creativity is what actually makes them who they are. So they can like go to companies and be like, oh, I've got this idea, I can turn this idea around.
Mm-hmm.
Think outside the box kind of thing.
I don't know whether this is the case in New Zealand. Charles, maybe you will know. But in Poland, we have some companies which are called quite inappropriately creative agencies, and they hire designers there. And these designers are put there to come up with advertisement, commercials, whatever things related to pushing products into people's, houses. And I was once invited I was asked to actually give a presentation about thinking in terms of alternatives, the one that we will have next on Thursday. And I had this guy who is an owner of one of those companies in Poland sitting next to me, and he looked at me and says, like, where am I going to get all these guys from, like, who think creatively? And I was thinking, like, come on, like, yeah. Missing, but yeah, so we started. But the thing is, like, apparently designers are trained to be creative, but they can also sort of lose it along the way. And I think that one of the reasons is that creativity needs space and needs time. That these are not things that happen like this. This is not like like language. You just trigger and you start speaking and then it comes out. It just needs more than just a mere being a designer approach to actually pop up. But actually, before all that, there is this kind of this is actually so this is a theory about how the brain works. This is not exactly true. So they are actually finding out that those parts of our brain are definitely much more diverse and connected in very many different ways. But this is a good representation that basically describes that our left hemisphere is really dominated by analytical thinking. It's kind of analyzing the hard data that has been already collected. So this is the approach that I mentioned with Christoph. This is like, you collect the data, analysis, and then you got the result that you can with certainty say that it is a correct approach. Often in this kind of things, like when people are like not at the universities but like in companies, these are also often the guys who keep status quo. in place. So actually, I don't remember who said that, but someone said that there must be like 80% of people who change things in an evolutionary way, and maximum 20% of revolutionists in a society. Otherwise, the world would get destroyed and never rebuilt. And it makes a lot of sense because, like, people who are really, especially extremely creative, they tend to turn everything upside down. That's their skill. That's their strongest quality, but also the weakest one. Because when they turn everything upside down, they are sort of not really that much interested in keeping that. They just want to go to the next thing. So yeah, this is the division there. So with the right brain, is much more dominated. Right hemisphere is much more dominated by intuition. So these are the things that you do because you think that they are correct. You cannot quite explain why this is true, but you know that this is the way things should happen. Often these things can be quite, this part of the brain can be quite disconnected from reality. So this is really like looking at things with those different eyes, but really kind of discarding what reality tells us. And one of the other characteristics is that the right hemisphere is not that interested in applicability of the things that it creates. So like I told you, that the creativity is like both being creative but also making these things happen. So like you need a combination of these two in order to actually bring the creativity or creative ideas into something which is tangible and then can be presented. So again, I'm not saying that one is better than the other, in no way. I think that there is a combination of the qualities from your both sides of your brain that brings this whole approach, which is creative approach, to work. So, but like just for a joke, generally known device, right, or like a piece of software. So when calculators were designed by engineers, which are predominantly left hemisphere guys, they would go for making more functionality there. Like so you have the same thing, and then you just add more functions. So this is the approach. You can even beautify it one way or the other. But this is like like you still have the exact same thing, but you just put it in a different form. Maybe not the most beautiful one, but I couldn't find a nicer one. But again, when you approach the calculator with the creative approach with the right hemisphere, so when you go and see it with different eyes, you create something that was created for Apple. So this is the natural language approach to calculation. And basically what you do, these are your spendings. So you start putting the spendings and the numbers there, and basically it's turned into a calculation that gives you a number that represents how much you spent on. Here was actually a reconstruction of a house. So basically you write things that are written in a natural language that people can understand, that don't require putting the numbers and then you don't know what those numbers meant. You always have an overview of these numbers because they are actually meaningful, and from that you actually get something that gives you a sum or a difference that actually means something to you. So this is keeping the two parts of what calculation really is all about. It's like the number and also the meaning of the numbers. So this is an approach. There's another story which I actually love. That was many years ago. So basically, there is the train connection between London and Paris, and the trip takes around 5 hours, I think. And at some point, the Eurostar or like the company that owns the rails decided that this is too long and that this trip should get shorter. So they kind of put it forward as a problem to solve. And the engineering approach, the more analytical approach, was to get billions of euros to fix the rail so it's smoother, and so the average time gain, speed is higher, but the time gain on the whole route is like half an hour. So it's like 5 hours, but 4.5 hours. Billions of euros. And there was another proposal brought by a British designer who said, like, how about instead of putting those billions of euros into reconstructing the rail, we spend this money on serving champagne by international models on those trains. People will want this trip to last longer. And actually, you can spend like this amount of money that was supposed to be spent on reconstruction would actually serve for 200 years of serving champagne by models. Again, it is a question of approach. It is a question of what you want to get. But it's good to challenge yourself to look at the problem from different perspectives. So like not only to look at it from a perspective of this like really efficient, effective, functional problem solving that gives more, even if this is just for inspiration, because it may just put some things in perspective and help you to make better choices. The problem is that we are our own enemies when it comes to being creative. It's something that we have like embedded in our minds by schools that make us think like, okay, this is a stupid idea even before we actually say it out loud. So we have this tendency of killing the ideas before they are actually born. And here's the time for the presentation of Ken. Yeah.
Actually, look at me on another wall, just like before.
Yeah.
How someone say that there will be a problem, the agency will solve it. The whole problem definitely needed
To solve it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Shall we switch the light off? So you can, if you're bored, then you can sleep.
I moved to America 12 years ago. My wife, Terry, and our 2 kids. Actually, to think we moved to Los Angeles. Thinking we were moving to America, but then it's a short plane ride from Los Angeles. I got here 12 years ago, and when I got here, I was told various things like Americans don't get married. When you come across this idea, it's not true. I've traveled the whole length of this country and I've found no evidence that Americans don't get married. It's one of those cultural myths, like the British are reserved. I don't know why people think this. We've invaded every country we've encountered. But if not two Americans don't get out of it, then I just want you to know that that's what people are saying about you. When you leave living rooms in Europe, people say, thankfully, COVID's ironic. But I knew that Americans get married when I came across that legislation, no child left behind. Because whoever thought of that title gets married. No, because it's leaving millions of children behind. Now I can see that's not a very attractive name for legislation. Billions of children left behind. I can see that. And well, we propose to leave billions of children behind, and here's how it's going to work, and it's working beautifully. In some parts of the country, 60% of kids are biologists. In the Native American community, it's 80%. If we halve that number, or less than it is, it would create a net gain in the US economy over 10 years of nearly $1 trillion. From an economic point of view, this is good math. You should do this. It actually costs an enormous amount to pop up the damage from the dropout crisis. The dropout crisis is just the tip of an iceberg. What it doesn't count are all the kids who are in school but being disengaged from, don't enjoy it. this, that human beings are naturally different and diverse. I ask you, how many of you have got children of your own? Okay. Or grandchildren? How about two children? And the rest of you have seen such children. Small people wandering about. I will make you a bet, and I'm confident I will make a bet. If you've got two children or more, I bet you they are completely different. Aren't they? Aren't they? You would never confuse them. Like, which one are you? Remind me. Mother and I are going to introduce some colour coding system so we don't get confused. Education under No Child Left Behind is based on diversity but reform. What schools are encouraged to do is to find out what kids can do across a very narrow spectrum. One of the effects of No Child Left Behind has been to narrow the focus onto the so-called STEM disciplines. They're very important. I'm not here to argue against science and math. On the contrary, they're necessary, but they're not sufficient. Real education has to be an equal weight to arts, humanities, physical education. An awful lot of kids. One estimate, actually, is that something like 10% of kids are being diagnosed with various conditions under the broad type of attention deficits, ADHD. I'm not saying there's no such thing. I just don't believe it's an epidemic. Sit kids down hour after hour doing low-grade clerical work. Don't be surprised if they start to fidget. You know? Are not, for the most part, suffering from psychology. They're suffering from childhood. And I know this because I spent my early life as a child. I know kids across the West celebrates their various talents, not just a small race. By the way, the arts aren't just important because they're practical, they're important because they speak to parts of human being which are otherwise being touched. Second, principle that drives you is curiosity. If you can light the spark of curiosity in a child, they will learn without any further assistance for it. Children are natural learners. It's a real achievement to put that particular ability out for stuff. Curiosity is the engine of achievement. Now, the reason I say this is because one of the effects of current culture has been to deprofessionalize teachers. There is no system in the world, or any school in the country, that's better than its teachers. Teachers are the lifeblood of the success of schools. Teaching is a creative profession. Teaching properly conceived is not a delivery system. But you're not there just to pass on received information. Great teachers do that. But what great teachers also do is mentor, stimulate, provoke, engage. See, in the end, education is about learning. If there's no learning going on, there's no education going on. And people can spend an awful lot of time discussing education without ever discussing learning. The whole point of education is to get people to learn. A friend of mine, an old friend, actually very old, he's dead. That's as old as it gets, I'm afraid. So, a wonderful guy, he was a wonderful philosopher. He used to talk about the difference between task and achievement senses of verbs. So you can be engaged in activity or something, but not really achieving it. Like dieting. It's a very good example. There he is, he's dieting. Is he losing any weight? Not really. Teaching is a word like that. So there's Deborah, she's 34, she's teaching. But if nobody's learning it, she may be engaged in task teaching, but not actually fulfilling. the dominant loss of education was going to focus on not teaching and learning, but testing. And testing is important. Standardized tests have a place, but they should not be the dominant function of education. They should be diagnostic. They should help. If I go for a medical examination, I want some standardized tests. I do. So I want to know what my cholesterol level is compared to everybody else's. On a standard scale, I don't want to be told on some scale might not be invented in the car. Cholesterol is what I call level orange. Is that good? We don't know. All that should support learning. It shouldn't obstruct it. Support it up the place. So the basic curiosity on the is a culture practice. Teachers are encouraged to follow kind of routine algorithms rather than cite that power of imagination and curiosity. And the third principle is this: human mind is inherently creative. It's why we all have different resumes. We create our lives, and we can recreate as we go through them. It's the common currency of being a human being. It's why human culture is so interesting, diverse, and dynamic. I mean, other animals may well have imaginations and creativity, but it's not so much inherent as it has ours. You may have a dog, and your dog may get depressed, but it doesn't listen to Radiohead. Sits staring out the window with a bottle of Jack Daniels. You say, would you like to come for a walk? You go, I'll wait. But take pictures. We all create our own lives and express this process of imagining alternative possibilities of what education is to awaken and develop these powers of creativity. Instead, what we have is a culture of standardization. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. Finland regularly comes out top in math, science, and reading. Now, we already know that's what they do well at because that's what we tested for. That's one of the problems of the test. They don't know other things that matter just as much. The thing about what Finland is this: they don't obsess about those disciplines. They have a very broad approach to education, which includes humanities, physical education, and arts. Second, there is no standardized testing. I mean, there's a bit, but it's not what gets people up in the morning, it's not what gets their desks. And the third thing, I'm repeating this to people from Finnish people. And somebody from the American system saying to people in Finland, what do you do about the dropout rate? And they all looked amused and said, well, we don't have one. Why would you drop out? If people are in trouble, we get them quite quickly and help them. Now, people always say, well, you can't compare Finland to America. I think it's a population of around 5 million. But you can compare it to a state. Many states in America have fewer people than that. I mean, I've been to some states in America. I was the only person there. Really? I was asked to lock up when I left. But what all high-performance systems of the world do is currently what is not evident, sadly, across systems in America. I mean, as a whole, what is this? They individualize teaching and learning. They recognize that it's students who are learning, and the system has to engage them, their curiosity, their individuality, and their creativity. That's how you get to learn. Second is that they attribute a very high status to the teaching profession. They recognize that you can't do educational if you don't improve your teaching, support professional development. Investing in professional development is not a cost, it's an investment. Every other country that's succeeding well knows that, whether it's Australia, Canada, South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, or Shanghai. They know that to be the case. And the third is they devolve responsibility to the school level for getting the job done. You see, there's a big difference here between going to a mode of command and control education. That's what happens in some systems. So central governments decide, or state governments decide, they know best and they're going to tell you what to do. The trouble is that education doesn't go on in the committee rooms of our legislative rooms. It happens in classrooms and schools. And the people who do it are the teachers and the students. And if you remove their discretion, it stops working. You have to put it back to the people. There's wonderful work happening. But I have to say, it's happening in spite of the dominant culture of education, not because of it. It's like people are sailing into a headwind all the time. The reason I think is this, that many of the current policies are based on mechanistic conceptions of education. It's like education is an industrial process that can be improved just by having better data. And somewhere in, I think, the back of the mind of some policymakers is this idea that if we fine-tune it well enough, if we just get it right, it'll all hum along perfectly into the future. It won't, and it never did. The point is that education is not a mechanical system, it's a human system. It's about people. People who either do want to learn or don't want to learn. Every student who drops out of school has a reason for it, which is rooted in their own biography. They may find it boring, they may find it irrelevant, they may find that it's at odds with the life they're living outside of school. There are trends, but the stories are always unique. I was at a meeting recently in Los Angeles of, they're called alternative education programs. These are programs designed to get kids back into education. They have certain common features. They're very personalized. They have strong support for the teachers, close links with the community, and a broad diverse curriculum, and often programs which involve students outside school as well as inside school. And they work. What's interesting to me is these are called alternative education. You know, and all the evidence from around the world is if we all did that, there'd be no need for the alternatives. So I think we have to embrace it. We have to recognize that it's a human system and there are conditions under which people thrive and conditions under which they don't. We are, after all, organic creatures. And the culture of the school is absolutely essential. Culture is an organic term. Not far from where I live is a place called Death Valley. Death Valley is the hottest, driest place in America, and nothing grows there. Nothing grows there because it doesn't rain. Hence Death Valley. In the winter of 2004, it rained in Death Valley. 7 inches of rain fell over a very short period. And in the spring of 2005, there was a phenomenon. The whole floor of Death Valley was carpeted in flowers for a while. What it proved is this: that Death Valley isn't dead. It's dormant. Right beneath the surface are these seeds of possibility, waiting for the right conditions to come about. And with organic systems, if the conditions are right, life is inevitable. It happens all the time. You take an area, a school, a district, you change the conditions, give people a different sense of possibility, a different set of expectations, a broader range of opportunities. You cherish and value the relationships between teachers and learners. You offer people discretion to be creative and to innovate in what they do. And schools that were once bereft spring to life. Great leaders know that. The real role of leadership in education, and I think it's true at the national level, state level, at the school level, is not and should not be command and control. The real role of leadership is climate control, creating a climate of possibility. And if you do that, people will rise to it and achieve things you completely did not anticipate and couldn't have expected. There's a wonderful quote from Benjamin Franklin. There are 3 sorts of people in the world. Those who are immovable. If you don't get it, they don't want to get it, they're not going to learn about it. There are people who are movable, people who who see the need for change and are prepared to listen to it. And there are people who move, people who make things happen. And if we can encourage more people, that will be a movement. And if the movement is strong enough, that's, in the best sense of the word, a revolution. And that's what we need. Thank you very much.
You could listen to his first presentation, which is absolutely awesome as well. At the end, I'm gonna play another video about education, which is really quite fascinating, and it's talking to children about education. So, but if you from what I wanted to point out is that what Ken Robinson says is that yeah, our creativity is sort of getting a little bit killed when we are at school, because we have to conform to one true answer. So like, you know, if you have a test, you have one answer. And world is so much more complex than that. So like there are no one answers situations. And the whole idea is that you should not try to find, so like creativity is a tool to look for those different answers rather than just look for this one true answer, which may not be there. And to understand that one answer doesn't necessarily have to be better or worse from the other answer. It's just different. So this is the important thing. And now I would like to do an exercise. Now could you switch the light on? You know, like it's often said that creativity is about thinking outside the box. But I would like to start with thinking inside the box. So I would like every one of you to take a sheet of paper. Yeah. Grab and something to draw. And draw this on your sheet of paper. It has a line on the bottom as well, so it's like a square with this arrangement of letters. Draw it, like draw a box and draw those, or put the letters like I put them here. Yeah. Okay. So now I would like you to connect A with A, B with B, and C with C with lines that don't cross. And you cannot get outside of the box, and you cannot go on the lines of the box. So try to find a connection. No, you cannot go for the, so you can't use the, you can't go like this along the lines of the box. You can only do the things within the box.
Okay.
Yeah? So, yeah. Is it clear? So you can't go outside of the box to make a connection. You cannot go along the lines of the box. You have to do it. Yeah.
You go around the characters.
Yeah. You can. Yeah. No, like not like this.
Not
You
like
cannot
that.
go along the. Yeah. That was the mistake I did, by the way. There is a solution to that, by the way. And I think that there is one solution to that. No. No, because this is like coming to the edge of the.
So it's like we have to do it inside, not outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, but then you have to connect A with A, B with B, and C, and the lines cannot cross.
Lines move like in the Z directions.
No. Yes, Mark. Yeah. Yeah, but don't say. No. No, and actually, when I was like, I really asked a friend of mine to send it to me because I put the letters wrong way and I just couldn't. I remember how it was, but I just couldn't find the pattern. Sorry? Yeah, they can be close, but they cannot cross. So you can't like just put one across the other. No. No, come on, you have to connect A with A, B with B, and C with C.
I have to connect all three.
No, you have to connect.
I was only focusing on B and A.
No. You have to connect A with A, B with B, and no, directly. No, folding paper doesn't work. You can do that. No, you can do that. You can do that, yeah. No, you can. So like you cannot go under A and B and C, like. Yeah, the instructions, I have to work on them.
The three thought you could only like work when you get to
Yeah, so basically you can. Yeah, no. So you cannot go along those lines, meaning like close to them. So you cannot like kind of go that way, but you can go like around this or yeah. Yeah. So you can't go here and here, but you can go like here. And you can. No, because you went underneath B.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, do you guys want to still try or you give up? Never. Okay, now we stuck. No, you cannot go around A, B, or C, and you cannot go here. You can cross those, like, go around them because they are in the box. So there is. Okay, one last trial. I'll find the other. No, you went around B. Okay. Guys? Yeah. Łukasz, show to the guys. Charles, show to Kunal. Yeah. So basically, this is how it goes. That's the solution. This is what. So basically, the thing is that you need to connect one with the other, and then the one which is like far away, and then find the last connection here. But the whole thing is that typically people start thinking in straight lines, and they try to make a connection where they think of a line as a straight thing, and therefore, like if you cross this, then you can still, like, probably would take you a little bit more time to figure out the line. But once you start thinking that the line doesn't really have to be straight, then you kind of open up to something completely different, to a different way of thinking about the problem that you are facing, which I saw many people getting completely stuck. They would go with straight lines and they would always cross. And like they just couldn't break through this idea that the line doesn't have to necessarily be straight. So this is the way of like kind of forcing yourself to just look at the task in a different way with different eyes. So a question is like how to develop creativity and how to keep it, because you can develop it and then you lose it. Like you already said that, like, you can be creative at the beginning and then you sort of lose it. So there are two things. And basically, the major problem with creativity is fear. You are afraid to be, so like the school, everything that Ken Robinson was talking about is that the school trains us to be alike, that we should kind of fit into whatever imaginary box we should be put in. And this is something that stops people from asking questions, from questioning the obvious, and from trying new things. So these are the major reasons why people are not creative. Actually, I have this recollection of a conference. It was a conference in Poland, and there was a guy who was presenting results, and I couldn't understand what he was telling me. So I asked a question, and I said, like, yeah, I'm sorry, I am not getting what you are trying to say. Please explain to me what's your point. And the chair of the session started screaming at me that I was too stupid to understand. I was just looking, I was 12, after being 12 years in the Netherlands, so, I wasn't afraid of asking questions anymore, because in the Netherlands, everybody questions everything. But I was thinking, like, oh my God, like, it doesn't matter whether there's one person who doesn't understand it. Like, you should explain it so this person gets it. And in the end, it actually turned out that the guy didn't show, so he was showing results, but he didn't show the scale that he was using. And I couldn't really understand whether the differences he was showing were significant or not. So I said, okay, if you don't give me a spectrum, like, is it from 1 to 10? So he was kind of oscillating around like 6 and 7. So I said, okay, if this is like index between 6 and 7, I can see that these are like significant differences. But if this is between 1 and 10, then obviously there's nothing in your data. And he didn't want to show it because there was nothing in his data. And yeah, so basically there was, this is the situation that we are very often put into. We are being laughed at or being questioned that we are stupid because we are asking questions. And this is something that in order to cultivate creativity is something that you have to, like, kind of grow a thick skin on that and just keep on asking questions. And don't let yourselves be put down by an answer that you don't understand. So, like, you can, this is something that, this is the way to keep creativity. But there are other things. And again, we will be talking more about it in the next class. So there is something which is called divergent thinking. I think that Mark was mentioning that at during the last the first lecture. So basically, whenever you start solving a problem, you know very little of what your problem is all about. Like you guys, or Jonathan, you are at the very beginning of your journey, design journey. So you have a lot of information, but you don't know what to choose from. So this is all like a big, blurry picture of a potential direction that you should go. So the idea at the beginning is, in order to understand what's going on, is to explore a number of the different alternatives. So you should try and discuss different options, different approaches to a problem, or different problems maybe even. And only after you explored all these different directions, then you can really decide which direction is yours, and you can bring down all those alternatives, all those concepts that you created along the way, into something that you create as a final concept, or final design, or final prototype, or final product. So basically, the whole idea is that if you don't explore the design space well enough, you will never ever know whether the path you chose. So like exploration is a way to build your certainty in the direction that you are going. And the problem is, or like the thing is, that whenever you are exploring a new problem, a problem that doesn't have a solution yet, you don't know which direction to go. That's the uncertainty is embedded into solving problems that haven't been solved 1,000 times over and over again before. So it is good to not to know. The whole thing is that at some point you need to take a decision that I'm going that direction, but not in that direction. So, and again, there is no better or worse. There is just one of the directions that you choose. And the thing is that often, like when you talk about creative people, they kind of go on and explore all the directions, but they are not really choosing anything. So they keep all their options open, and therefore they cannot kind of commit to something particular. Looking at you, Jonathan. No, yeah, but I think I totally understand your problem, because like as a inexperienced designer, I always had this problem. I had this terrible fear of making a choice, and this is a natural thing that everyone has. And only with experience you learn that, in a way, it a little bit doesn't matter, because if you do a great job on a problem that you chose, it still can be a great solution. So in a way, it's better to choose something and just explore and span across the context of this thing and understanding of the problem, rather than just to be so trying to find the best problem. Every problem can be interesting. We make them interesting. Sure.
Might not have been perfect in that location, but the fact that you thought about it might enable you to think about it again later on in another problem. Oh, I think that idea that perfectly answered that.
Totally, yeah. So actually, with the yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is like this is the major problem of research funding in Poland. In Poland, the decisive bodies believe that the only research worthwhile investing into is like cure for cancer, or finding another whatever great thing, and it's a very difficult thing to get sponsoring of research that's just interesting. And like when on the other side, when I look at many universities in the US, they start with something relatively small, something that they are curious about, and suddenly the small thing grows into something really much bigger. Like actually, there is one I don't know, and definitely again there are like different approaches. I'm not saying that this one is like one and the only. But for example, I remember John Zimmerman and Judy Forlizzi. They had this paper about investigating daily routines of parents with children. And the question they asked themselves was, okay, we would like to change the routine for the parents, so they feel better when they are putting the children to bed in the evening. So they went there, they did contextual studies, they did diaries and all the stuff that I was telling you before, and they realized that actually there is no problem with evening routines. Like, the evening routines are fine. You know, the parents, they really have their ways to put the kids into bed. These things are being designed, they have purposes, there's nothing, like, you can add things, but the change won't be really drastic. But there's a major problem with a morning routine. Because the kids, until they are 5, they don't understand what time is. So for them, when the sun is shining, whether this is 5 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, it's a day. So, you know, they wake up at 5 or at 9, very happily, coming to their parents' beds. And in one case, the parents are all happy because they slept well and, you know, they are willing to start playing with their kids. And in the other case, they are like completely annoyed because it's 5 o'clock in the morning and they had a party until 3 and they just managed to fall asleep. And the kid doesn't understand that. So, like, so actually from the analysis of an evening routine, they found that the problem was completely in a different place. And they switched their whole research into the morning routines rather than getting stubborn in designing things for evening routines, which probably they could have design elements for as well. It's just that the result would not be as spectacular as the one for the morning routine. So this is the divergent thinking, and like letting yourself change the focus. Like if it turns out that that was not really a good direction, you say, okay, then I'm taking all the interesting things that I got out of it and I'm just taking it to the different direction and just see what's going to happen there. But at some point when you feel that you got, and this is this part of intuition, like with Łukasz, we often have discussions, like he asks me, like, why do I know that this is a good approach? And I honestly, I cannot explain that. I don't know, but I have this gut feeling that we should do that. And you know, it's just like, again, experience things like that, they give you the more confidence in getting this gut feeling. But in fact, this is something that you feel like, oh my God, like I feel that this is something that either interests me or is potentially interesting for other people. And when you get this sensation, it's a good thing to pursue that further. And then still like kind of investigate what are the options, what are the alternatives for the solution. But this is a way to really get into the space that is interesting. So there are some habits of creative people that are quite universal. Okay, I put them in a list. First of all, focus on the problem rather than solution. This is a major problem for many engineers who sort of, I'm always laughing that this is like they don't think of a problem, they think of a half-baked solution. So like you kind of think, okay, I can, sorry, Jonathan, for using your example, but it is in my mind, obviously. Like, you know, like you wrote yesterday that you played with Kinect. So you could actually start thinking of a problem in terms of, okay, how can I use Kinect to design a game for rehabilitation? This is not thinking about the problem. This is thinking about the solution from the start. And that narrows your perspective, that narrows what you are really understanding from what the problem is all about. So yeah. 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 Okay. The other thing is like I said, like there are some people who keep on exploring and never take any decision. So there are points which you can internally tell to yourself that, okay, I am not, so like you are not able to know everything about the problem. It's just physically impossible. We have, first of all, we deal with problems which are called so-called wicked problems. So problems that are so complex that they cannot be resolved in one single solution. Think of a design of an airplane or even a car or even a computer. Like, you know, one person cannot resolve all of it. But you can take a part of that problem and design a solution for it in a very good way. Like, I don't know, you can think of like Prezi, a perfect way to present presentations, to give presentations rather than using PowerPoint. which is more easy to distribute. So there are moments when you have to say, okay, I hope I have enough information, and you keep on exploring further on while you are designing, and therefore this whole process is like iterative process, because you keep on testing whether your assumptions are correct. So this is the whole idea, that you have to take decisions at some point. And like sometimes you will feel more comfortable with these decisions, sometimes less, but it is an important thing to take decisions and stop exploring and start designing. But again, like start with the problem, because if you don't do exploration at all, then you lose this whole chance of understanding what the true problem is all about. Stories, this is something that catches your heart and people's heart. If you start making stories, telling stories, drawing stories, it will make you to understand better what you try to do, and it will make people understand better what you try to do. Stories are fantastic material for discussion. So this is something that really helps to bring the conversation together and to find a sweet spot and the pain points in your design. Externalize the design process. The whole exercise with making the trend maps physical, that was a point to show you that it is really important to not to sit in front of your computer and write some small things, some snippets for yourself, but try to visualize it and externalize it in a way that you can bring someone and tell them about your process. If you make this, you will make a process rather than snippets of process. Like if you're just doing this for yourself, like internally, so this is like thinking, like, I don't know if you had to, I have a friend and he said like he was having a test from some subject, and history that was. So he went through the book, and yeah, it was the standardized test. So you kind of have one true answer, and that's passed. So there is also one true answer for many things. So he went like, okay, I know that, I know that, I know that, I know that, and he went to the exam, to the test, and he failed because he convinced himself that he learned, that he tried out the knowledge that he's got, while he didn't do that. But if he started, like, for example, writing things, like making some cards, like flashcards, or like just draw a picture or something, if you externalize this thing, you're really making the process. This is really crucial. That's why, I was pressing you so much to do this physical thing, because the whole thing of making just makes you think. And like you have to finish it. It cannot be like half done, because then it doesn't work. It's not done. So that really helps to kind of put your creativity in a right direction. Be comfortable with not knowing. This is something that's really important. You cannot know things. You cannot know everything. I remember when I was designing the priority inbox at Google, I was freaked out. Like I put forward the design to the team, and that was my best effort. I couldn't have thought of anything better there at that point. But I was not sure that was the best solution. I was totally freaked out. And it turned out to be actually a really good solution. So I'm happy about it these days and much more confident about my own design skills. But the thing is that, like, if you don't put it forward and you don't give it to people, you will never know whether this is a good design or not. Get used to failing. That's a big thing. But the thing is, like, this failure is being always presented in terms of something bad happening to you. And for me, it's like I think it was Edison who said that he found 50 different ways of how things didn't work. So this is not failing. This is finding ways in which things don't work or don't work well enough for your standard or for your goal or for your purpose or for the problem that you are trying to solve. So this failing, I think that it has this pejorative meaning, which is not really, it should not have it. Yep?
So it's supposed to don't know, an experiment.
Yeah.
And then it's an experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so there's another statement that I heard that I really like, that experience is something that you get when you don't get what you want. And this is in a way something like that. So you know what mistakes not to make next time. For me, doing these kind of things, and like I really, when I think about many of my projects and those kind of tests along the way, like failure after failure after failure, but that because of them, I knew what people didn't want. So this is for me learning what people don't want rather than thinking that, okay, I failed. This is not my failure. This is just a stage in the process that doesn't affect me as a designer. It is just a natural part of the process itself. So this is really important. Another thing is like find a kid in yourself. You know, like when all of you were kids, like you played, and so like I also saw this sentence saying that kids don't see problems, they see challenges. And this is something like if you give a kid a task, they don't think, okay, oh my God, this is going to be difficult to solve. They just think like, okay, now let's do something about it. Like they go bending pages and they do all the things that you try to do. But this is actually the child way of approaching the problem. And honestly, if you like, I come from a culture which is very socially aware. Like in Poland, people are very aware about everything about themselves, how they dress up, how they speak, how they behave, what they say. We are a nation that really very scrutinizes very much other people around them. So, you know, like and especially at school, you really don't want to make, you know, look stupid and so on. So, you know, if you say, okay, I do have this like inner kid and child in myself, you stop worrying about these things that much. So like, okay, so what that people criticize some things? Like, might be that these people are just not worth to have a discussion with. Like, maybe they are just not the right people to involve in your process. Or maybe they are afraid themselves. Very often this is the case. Like again, sorry, like, yeah, but your physiotherapist who is like so afraid of losing a job. This is not, he doesn't see the opportunity. He doesn't see that it can help him. He sees he looks through his fears of not being necessary in the process anymore. And this is, of course, this is something that you have to deal with one way or the other, but that's neither your fault or not really this person's fault. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad direction or a bad person. It's just that you have to find a different way to talk to him so he, you know, he's on board. Yeah. Yeah, micromanagement.
And you basically won't teach me or how to do other tasks that actually enable them to run the company better.
Yeah.
So they'd rather like not have the experience of failure in and there to save themselves that little piece of failure. Yeah. But you know, if he let us teach us things we know, then the business would flourish a lot more. Like,
yeah.
If he taught me how to do wheel alignments, then he wouldn't have to do them anymore, and then he wouldn't have to get all frustrated about it, and he could focus on, you know, actually getting customers and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's just too concerned with that side failing.
Yeah. I think that this is a different problem that you are mentioning, and you know, I'm guilty of it too. It's like this really strong belief that no one can do these things better than yourself. So this is the stupid perfectionism that many people have, and especially when they are in academia, this is like this is a characteristic of people working in academia. There was an interesting approach to that at Microsoft. Like they have bosses, they have managers, but the managers are they have to negotiate with the employees what sort of projects are going to be done. So actually, in the end, it's about 5 to 10% of projects that are done that came from the managers, and the rest are the projects that are brought up by people, by the employees. And so I was talking to all those managers there, and they said, like, you know, like some of these ideas when they first came, they sounded so stupid. Like I would never, if I had a power to do it, I would never allow to do that. And then it turned out to be a huge success. Like one of them was called Ken in the Box. Do you watch Big Bang Theory? Everyone? No? I don't know if you remember, there is this episode that Sheldon, you should, by the way. Yeah, like this. It's not going to give you a better grade, but I think that it gives you a lot of fun. So there is this episode when Sheldon decides that he's going to preserve his body for the time that the medicine is so good that, or like his brain can be sustained forever. So he creates this virtual reality with the screen and the robot like walking, and like he's talking through the monitor. So basically they designed that. They created a virtual presence, and this virtual presence was created for a guy who worked at Microsoft Research, but he, for one reason or another, didn't live in Redmond, but lived in somewhere in Minnesota, and he could not be in the office all the time. So they thought like, okay, this is like he feels isolated. We feel not connected with him. We cannot really work. So they created a screen which was on wheels. That was like put on. There was a desk, there was a chair, and there was the screen, and the guy was sitting there on the other side of the camera working. And when these were working hours, he always had the camera on, so you could see whether he's working or he went for tea or whatever. And then if you wanted to have a conversation with him, you just approached the desk and you sat on the chair on the other side of the desk and you had a conversation with the guy. The guy saw you right away, so it was like a natural or like semi-natural communication at the office. And also, he was dragged to the meetings like that. So they actually, I thought it was so funny to see, like Ken being pulled through the corridors. But so like, if you think of this idea, it kind of sounds a little bit preposterous, like what a stupid thing. And the impact on that guy and on his team was huge. They said like they felt that he was really truly part of the team. And this is like exactly what you were saying, that when you have a manager who tries to push through with their ideas, their visions, and they believing that this is one only way to go, then you have people who work in a reactive way rather than proactive way. And then this is killing many businesses. Actually, I saw a lot of these examples in Poland.
I used to be a salesman, basically. Stop me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
He's just held it in me that much that I don't actually want to do it now.
Yeah.
I don't actually want to.
Yeah.
I don't feel really bad, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. The question is, like, I would look at it as a problem to solve, like finding another job. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. So like again, like you can approach it, or maybe there is a way to try to convince him and just have so like we are working with the national parks in Poland, and national parks are very conservative institutions. Like they are not really very open-minded, but like so we have one guy who went through a year course on service design, and he's totally he flipped to the other side, and he loves this kind of approach. But there's another guy who has potential, but he has to be convinced, and so we are trying to work with him and convince him how to change his approach. But like with the other guy, you can kind of sort of do everything right away, and then turn everything upside down, and he would be happy about it. With the other guy, you sort of have to take him by hand and walk him through the process. And you can think of this as a challenge. Okay, screw you, do your job. This is your business. I don't care. But you can also think about it as a way. Okay, like how can I train my skills, creative skills, to convince this guy that maybe there is a different approach to the business. Yeah, and sometimes it's just not worth it, like I quit a number of jobs because it was like unchangeable. So yeah, but it's always a good training, even if you fail at the end. Okay, so there's another thing that is really important, that embrace the time needed to find inspiration. Like I said at the beginning, inspiration just doesn't come when it's called. You need to have time, you need to get triggers, you need to procrastinate in a way, like you mentioned at the beginning, that like looking for inspiration on the net, pictures, architects and so on, you have to get all those insights and inspirations to build something new. And actually, a lot of people have this, as my students in Poland, they have this notion that they have to create something utterly original. So they are not trying not to look for inspiration anywhere else because they want to be so original and they don't want to plagiarize or copy someone or whatever. The problem is that they always come up with something which has already been done thousand times over. Inspiration, like looking at what other people did, is an inspiration to build something on the top of it. When you look at literature is built on the literature that was written before. It's not like someone comes up with something utterly different. It's either questioning a certain style of writing or building on a certain style of writing. And this is how new things are being created. Like you need your talent, your skill, your understanding. But the things that that have been done before, that they should be discarded, because they actually tell you, okay, this is the status quo of today, and then you can use it and build something extra with that. And yeah, often like when you don't look for inspiration, you just build the same thing that thousands of other people built in the world. So actually, when we were designing whenever we were designing something at Google, there was always the saying that like whatever we design, probably there are like at least 5 other teams designing exactly the same thing in the world. It's just like there's like so much going on. Like there are like so many companies, startups, people thinking with this technology. We can everyone wants to be creative. We are entering the creative era. So people are coming up with the same problems and the same issues, and like some of them are just stubborn enough to bring them to the world. So this is again this combination. And believe in your research. It's very important. I'm not undermining the importance to do your research, to do your studies, to do your analysis, and so on. That's why I spent so much time telling you about all of that. But believe your intuition as well. So like there is something weird in our heads that just like tells you that that's the right direction to go. And then like the thing is also that if your intuition tells you that it's a good direction to go, this is probably something that interests you deeply, and therefore you will have much more commitment to do this particular thing rather than doing something else. So this intuition is also like your inner conviction that you want to do that. And this is half of the success, or at least part of the success, that you are going to be stubborn enough to actually pull it through. John Cleese said something really cool, that nothing will stop you from being creative so effectively as the fear of making a mistake. And yeah, so like really remember that, and just don't be afraid. Like the mistakes are not a representation of your failures. This is making a mistake. Okay, if you keep on making the same mistake, then yeah, obviously there is something wrong. But if you make a mistake, you learn, and that doesn't reflect on who you are. Then the Dutch, they are really amazing with that. In their culture, they have embedded the approach that they are experts and they are great. And if they fail, that okay, they kind of sleep for a moment that this one thing went wrong, but it doesn't mean that they are bad, that they are bad designers or bad people. Or so like dividing these things really helps you to. Mm-hmm.
When I was involved in Japan, I was talking to a person about state company, and apparently they had this kind of fail fast,
Yeah.
and fail off,
Yeah.
and eventually get it good. Just have this money to people failures for money.
Yeah.
And in Japan, they say failure, they can't shame.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then, those people really get
Yeah.
something even very big enough. It's on your family, and so your children are not going to do this.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow.
So when I was talking to my friend in Japan about their company, he's like, they spend a couple of years in health system and some work, and they fail because if you fail, then
Yeah.
it's very difficult in Japan to crack.
Yeah.
US,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the now the kind of looking at the development in both countries. Yeah, so I think that we had this discussion recently about this approach of minimal viable product, and the problem with MVP is that that sort of allows you to forever stay in a beta stage of your product design, and therefore you don't pay attention to the emotional qualities of your design, because it's just always tweaking and then changing things and so on. I can imagine that the Japanese approach is like really like from many designs that they made, this is like beautifully finished. Like you really have to have something that brings value on many different levels. So I think that there's probably a combination of these two, that can be a sweet spot there. But I think that like having this like when I'm talking in Poland, like Polish culture is not very open to failure. So I changed the vocabulary, and I'm talking about experimentation. And the funny thing with an experiment, like when I come to a new company and I say like, okay, let's do something. And if we talk about the project, everybody freaks out, because project is a big thing, big budget, you know, you have some deliverables, you are making promises. But if I start talking about, let's do an experiment, and so everybody goes like, okay, fine, experiment is something that can go wrong. This is something, it has so much less pressure on it, that it just like, you know, makes people just want to try things out. So like you can also talk the exact same language to yourself. Like if you're making doing an experiment, like, okay, let's try to talk to these two guys and those two guys to see, you know, what they feel about it. Then this is just an experiment. It can go like, it could have gone all wrong. You throw it away and then you're done and you start something all over again. It doesn't have this pressure. And I think that this is something that we also ourselves are putting the pressure on. And this is one, my thing. So there's a really funny story. Like I didn't read this book yet, although I'm going to. But after the first year of working at Play at this Polish telecom, that was the book that I got from the boss as a Christmas gift. So I was laughing that probably he really truly tried to tell me something. So basically the whole thing is like, these are lessons from various companies that put a lot of money into something and then they miserably failed. But actually there's one story which says that there was a guy, I don't know which business, but he made an investment of like $1 billion, or you know, at least a few millions, and everything went wrong. So he expected to be fired, and he goes to his boss, and the boss, so like, you know, like really bringing the letter of resignation, saying, okay, I really, you know, that went wrong. And the boss says, like, I am not going to fire you now. Like, I just invested in you a number of millions of euros. Now you have to deliver me value for this investment. So, you know, you can also think in those failures or those experiments as investments, really, rather than costs. But it's good to do them cheaper than this number. Like, you know, like, there are like so many different ways that you can experiment that are like really, really cheap. I showed you the Vista video with the whole thing, showing the whole interaction style without really writing any code there. That's a cheap way to test some ideas. And fast, like Mark said, like this is the more American style, but fast and early. And I think that early is the important thing. So like if you fail at the beginning, the cost is minimal. If you fail at the end, you spend a lot of money, you have to rebuild the whole thing. This is all suboptimal. And it's just like if you try things out with people at the end, that's just too late. And the problem is that many companies and many institutions are so afraid of getting feedback, of learning that they did something wrong, that they just don't want to show it to their users until the very last moment. We worked with one company, and they were designing many things, but among those they were designing a website, and this website was designed. So very often companies design websites for themselves and not for their users. So they put information that interests them rather than people who come to that website. So for example, all the information about their successes and who visited them, and you know, all these kind of things. You know, like people don't care. Like, you know, they are not interested in your business. They are interested in what they can get out of your business, and not the other way around. So that was exactly the same story there. This website was very much oriented into the company itself. This is the rehabilitation clinic. So, they have their patients, their clients sitting in the lobby waiting for the treatment. So this is like a fantastic testing opportunity. Like, you can just get out and just give a person a piece of text and ask what they think of it. And this girl who is the owner of the company, she told me, like, yeah, but if they say that I wrote it all wrong, I said, yeah, that's the whole point, that they tell you that, because then you are not going to publish it on a website and not get what you want out of this text. Like, if you understand what you want to get out, then you can just test it out and then just get the best thing out into the open. And there's always kind of a whole story about like how this process goes with your feelings. So basically, usually, like in the discovery and research part, you're really optimistic and you have a lot of hopes about, like, okay, this is all going to be great. Then you go into an ideation, and then you have all those brilliant ideas, right? And then you're so enthusiastic. Oh my God, this is like so cool. I'm gonna build it all. And then you have to realize what's actually doable. And that's when the depression hits, because it turns out that like many of the things that you thought of are either technologically impossible, or you just don't have time for them, or you have no money for them, or you don't have people to help you to build these kind of things. So there's always this like moment when you go like, oh my God, like I'm not able to do it, or like it's not gonna be good enough. And then when you release this to the users, either in the form of a prototype or a product, then you have on the one hand dread, so like you're afraid that no one's gonna like it. And on the other hand, you have hope that maybe they will like it. And this is a normal thing. This is like every single person who is in creative business and business of the delivering anything to the users goes through. So just, don't think that this is just you going through this. And actually, the funny thing is that like most people think that the opposite of play is work, but the opposite of play is boredom or depression. Like if you put it further, this is really quite important to know. This is like people have this impression that they don't want to behave in a childish way because they are grown-up professionals and they have to be serious, and that's not the case. Like that, this thing doesn't really contradict. So like you can be very professional and still be able to be creative and play with different ideas and use very many creative methods to come up with many solutions. So the design process goes like this always. You'll have ups and downs. So the downs are totally normal, like everyone has them. There's this cool book by Seth Godin called The Deep, and it explains very nicely, like, how you go through the various deeps of your design process. And the important thing is to remember that when you are on the, on the high, they don't last forever. This is like a sort of like a bipolar disorder in design. Like you have your ups and you have your downs, and this is going to happen. So don't think that this is something strange. And we are what we repeatedly do, Aristotle said. And excellence is not an act, but it's a habit. So like if you keep on training yourself and being creative, and then look for inspiration, then you will be more creative. This is a state of mind. This is not a skill. So this is something that is worthwhile to remember. And just to prove it to you, I'm going to give you another exercise. Again, everybody a sheet of paper. And I would like you to write down the most disgusting menu that you could ever imagine. It has to have a starter, main course, and a dessert, and something to drink. The food. It has to be okay. It has to be something that's potentially eatable, but yeah, it has to be the most disgusting one you can imagine. A starter, a main course, dessert, and something to drink. not that easy, right? Yeah, it's like things that we don't see. Huh? Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, you're right. Oh, yeah. Okay. I went much more extreme. Blah. Okay. Ready? Who first? Jonathan. Yeah?
As I got deep right back to the election preparations by the Bible to sell. Then we got to his thoughts to get all stuff. Then got sheet down. Is it got the total caramel sauce? Besides, we got the fries from there.
Oh.
Drinks we got.
Oh, yeah. Okay, who's next?
Yeah.
I like fried hand flavor.
What?
Fried hand flavor, like eggs.
Uh-huh.
It's like this is actually a Cambodian dish. The famous one is the red ants.
Okay.
Then there was either
Tandoori?
Tandoori.
Yeah?
Tandoori.
Durian.
Oh yeah.
Smell the rock, make it back,
Uh-huh.
but it tastes like in Cambodia they grow very much naturally. And then the drinks that was fermented was possible.
Actually, you made up a real.
Based on their food.
Okay. 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 Who's next?
Stars I had sheep brains, nothing else. Salad, 100-year-old main I had Pegasus and seaweed. Desserts I had dates and prune sundae. And beverage is a problem or
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Starters, I had cockroaches fried in vinegar and milk. Main, I had a cow's brain served glue with a cabbage base and a sugar topping with an absurd amount of chili. Dessert, I had sugarless vanilla ice cream with mustard topping and sardines. And for a drink, I had a milkshake with blended steak and a raw egg.
Oh. Okay.
For starters, I have fried bugs, main course snake curry, cockroaches, stuffed bread, eggs, bitter garden,
Mm-hmm.
dessert, sweet custard,
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.
One was the box.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't have any taste. Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't have an option. That was the only thing we could eat. Yeah.
For the main, I have again something that's not, yeah, always soft, that's not. Yeah, no other spice. And for the drink, again, the same, like slightly salty.
Coffee actually was even worse. So I went the really gross, like salad out of the most bitter leaves in the world with rotten stinky fish raw, with a dressing of a puddled water, at least 10 years old, with soil and sand and remains of smoked cigarettes. Yeah. Okay. The main course, I went for monkey fingers with nails, over grilled until black, served with pate from rotten eggs with rotten unpeeled potatoes, sort of like, I was thinking of like car, but like things that you put in a machine that are still kind of not poisonous, as a gravy. For the dessert, I went for hard-dried and dusty old apples found in the attic, and boiled in sour wine, served with nuts full of flies that flip in your mouth. Yeah, and the drink, urine of a sick old sheep mixed with fur. So, yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, oh Jesus. Yeah. Okay. Good luck.
Here's a very funny one.
Uh-huh.
And he sent him around for 5 minutes. Sent him questions. And he threw up and he got his hair.
Oh.
It's like someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this exercise was aimed to show you that you can approach the problem or the issue from very many different perspectives, and then it's just a matter of thinking of perspectives that you want to approach it from. That helps you to kind of look at it from different sides. We will do more of it next class. So what is really important is to learn how to look with your new eyes. This is something really crucial. And the whole thing is that, Socrates said that an examined life isn't worth living. So this is something that you have to do the examination. And reflective practice is as much a state of mind as it is a set of activities. So this is one thing which is really important, is that you reflect on the things that you see. So you see with the knowing eyes. So like you really, like with the sign that I was showing you, probably you would pass it and you may not notice it because you're just not looking for these kind of things that happen. So there's this drawing that says about closed mind or like fixed mind and open mind. And there's like a number of things that you can approach. So basically, what basically says that in order to be open-minded, you have to have self-awareness. So you need to understand like how you are functioning and what sort of weird ways your brain goes. You have to be open-minded. So like, just seeing, okay, this can be also an interesting thing, like not getting really stuck with your way of thinking. You have to be willing to accept changes. So like, just be open to the fact that like, I was working here, but now that the whole project goes the other direction, so I'll just follow, or like I'm happy about the change. And you have to be very critical observer. You really need to look at things and like question many things that are assumed as status quo in these solutions. And then above all, you have to be a problem solver. So like, again, like not thinking about solutions, but thinking of problems that you want to solve, that this is the challenge that is ahead of you, that this is not hooking some technology together and making it work. This is like about solving something that is a problem, truly a problem. When I was in Eindhoven, we were kind of brainwashing the students to tell them that they are here to change the world. And it was working in a way. So basically, they were thinking always in terms of like, how can we change the world? So what sort of problem we can take up that is worthwhile solving because it has an impact. And this is something like a mindset that you might think of for yourself. And yeah, as I said, this reflective practice is an extremely important thing. Like being reflective on yourself and your observation, your thoughts. This is something that's crucial. Actually, designers often have it. They have those scrapbooks that they fill in with materials and things that they observe, pictures, phrases, and so on. This is a good practice, actually, to have. Like, just to bring things together. I think that the smartphones are really a great thing for it because, like, you can take photos of pretty much everything, and then you have this scrapbook, digital scrapbook done. So basically, the whole idea is that you have an experience, you observe it, you analyze it, you abstract it, so you try to understand what pattern is behind it and reconceptualize it, and then you go with this new concept to do the check whether this is a true experience. So this is sort of like a cycle that you could do. If you want to try these kind of things, there is an absolutely fantastic book which is called How to Be an Explorer of the World of Carrie Smith. She's like a designer who decided to make books that are not books. So these books are to be used and to be drawn upon and written. I have one that you have to tear all the pages out and send it to other people. So the whole idea is that this book is not something that you put on a shelf and passively read. This is something that you actively engage with. This one has lots of different exercises to make you sensitive to many things. Like, for example, you are looking for shapes in patterns or in clouds, or you are trying to think of what sort of things can be wrought in the world of magic and so on and so forth. So like, if you want to try, you really want to develop this kind of critical thinking and reflective thinking, this is a great way to do it. There are like many of other books of hers. You have a few here. So like with this one, you have to finish it. So the whole idea is that you write the book yourself. This one you have to destroy. So like you have to do different weird things to it. and so on. So the whole idea is that you kind of, again, like she did, she questioned the whole idea of a book as a thing that you should sort of, keep in a good shape and put on a shelf. This is something that you use up and that's done. So this is one of the approaches that can be taken. And that's it from me. Thank you. Perfect timing. But I have this video of Seth Godin talking to the kids about education. Would you like to see it still? Okay, I'll just need to bring the case because the battery is dying. Yeah, but this is a different one. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, you
No.
can't have it. If you take this one, you take this off.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
He said, imagine being on the deathbed and all the ideas are looking at how
Yeah. Yeah. This. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Could you switch the light off? And it's a TEDx education for kids and with kids.
Good morning, boys and girls. That was terrible. You've learned how to do that from a young age. You're supposed to say, good morning, Mr. Godin. So let's try again. Good morning, boys and girls. Have you thought about what that's for? Have you thought about how, for 100 or 150 years, that was ingrained into the process of public education? Have you thought at all, as people on the cutting edge, as people who are interested in making school work again, about a very simple question? What is school for? I don't think we're answering that question. I don't even think we're asking that question. Everyone seems to think they know what school is for, but we're not going to make anything happen until we can all agree about how we got here and where we're going. My goal today is to put that question into your head and help you think about it. First, we have to understand what school used to be for. There's a woman named Mary Yvette Boole, and she came up with this notion, she was a mathematician in the late 1800s, that you could use string and nails and wood and make decorations, those things where the string goes back and forth, and there's math built into that. And that a teacher on the cutting edge of fifth graders might decide to use that idea of modulo 9 and remainders and string going back and forth to teach an important lesson about math. So the memo went home to all the parents at my kids' public school and said, we need help with this, we need hammers. So I'm sort of unemployed. I showed up at school that day with a bag of hammers, a big bag of 18 hammers. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard 18 kids hitting nails with 18 hammers in a little room for 20 minutes, but I have. And I'm not going to do it for you because it's really hard to listen to. And what the teacher explained to the kids is they must arrange the brads in this certain pattern, hammering, and make sure they're in there nice and firm. And so these kids are hammering, 20 minutes of zero education, just 20 minutes of hammering. And then the teacher walks over and she says to her boy, I told you to make sure the brads were all the way in. And one by one, she pulled them out and threw them on the floor, every single one, and put the board down. And that is what she believed school was for. School was about teaching obedience. Good morning, boys and girls, starts the day with respect and obedience. Now we have to move on to Frederick J. Kelly. Some of you brought your own number 2 pencil for the quiz that's going to be part of today. The number 2 pencil is famous because Frederick J. Kelly made it famous. Back around World War I, we had a problem, which was this huge influx of students because we had expanded the school day to include high school. And there was this huge need to sort them all out. So he invented the standardized test, an abomination. And he gave it up 10 years later when the emergency was over. But because he gave it up, because he called it out, because he said the standardized test is too crude to be used, he was ostracized and lost his job as the president of a university. Because he dared to speak up against a system that was working. So let's try a little experiment here. I'd like everyone to go ahead and raise your right hand just as high as you possibly can. Now please raise it a little higher. What's that about? My instructions were pretty clear, and yet you all held back. How come? You held back because you've been taught since you were 3 years old to hold a little bit back. Because if you do everything, if you put all out, then your parent or your teacher or your coach or your boss is going to ask for a little bit more, aren't they? And the reason they will is because we are products of the industrial age. The industrial age made us all rich. The industrial age brought productivity to the table. Productivity allows human beings working together with a boss and a manager to make more than they could ever make alone. Productivity makes us a car for $700 instead of $700,000 in 1920. But the thing about productivity and industrialism is this. The people who ran factories had 2 huge problems. Problem number 1, they looked around and they said, we don't have enough workers. We don't have enough people who are willing to move off the farm and come to this dark building for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and do what they are told. If we could get more workers, we could pay them less. And if we could pay them less, we'd make more money. We need more workers. And so, the KKK went to industrialists and said, you need to get those kids out of the factories, those people you're paying $3 a day, because they're taking our jobs. And so a deal was made. And the deal was universal public education whose sole intent was not to train the scholars of tomorrow. We had plenty of scholars. It was to train people to be willing to work in the factory. It was to train people to behave, to comply, to fit in. We process you for a whole year. If you are defective, we hold you back and process you again. We sit you in straight rows, just like they organize things in the factory. We build a system all about interchangeable people. Because factories are based on interchangeable parts. If this piece is no good, put another piece in there. And org charts, those little boxes, are all designed to say, oh, we can fit Bob in there because Rachel didn't show to work today. And so we built school. That's what school was for. And the second thing industrialists were really worried about was that we weren't going to buy all the stuff they could make. That in 1880, 1890, people owned 2 pairs of shoes, 1 pair of jeans. That was it. Right? You don't know anyone who owns 1 pair of jeans anymore, ever. What they needed to train us to do was buy stuff. They needed to train us to fit in. They needed to train us to become consumers. And so Horace Mann, who meant well, built the public school as we know it. And then he needed more teachers, right? Because you have more schools. So he built a school for teachers. You know what it's called? The normal school. He called it the normal school, where they trained people to teach in the common school because he wanted you to be normal. And he wanted the class to be normal. And he wanted people to fit in. And then we came up with this. The textbook. Now, if you want to teach somebody how to become passionate about, I don't know, American history, why would you give them this? Do people walk into Barnes & Noble and say, I'm really interested in that latest gripping thing that's going to get me all engaged about the Civil War? Do you have one of those textbooks in stock? If you wanted to teach someone how to be a baseball fan, would you start by having them understand the history of baseball and who Abner Doubleday was and what barnstorming was and the influences of cricket and capitalism and the Negro Leagues? Would you do that? Would you say, okay, there's a test tomorrow. I want you to memorize the top 50 batters in order by batting average, and then rank the people based on how they do on the test. So the ones who do well get to memorize more baseball players? Is that how we would create baseball fans? Here's the key distinction. What people do, quite naturally, is if it's work, they try to figure out how to do less. If it's art, we try to figure out how to do more. And when we put kids in the factory we call school, the thing we built to indoctrinate them into compliance, why are we surprised that the question is, will this be on the test? Right? Someone who's making art doesn't say, can I do one less canvas this month? They don't say, can I write one less song this month? They don't say, can I touch one fewer person this month? It's art. They want to do more of it. But when it's work, when it's your job, when you're 7, of course you want to do less of it. So one of the things that I've done as a avocation is when I meet people, I take this out. This is a great bargain online. And it's filled with these blocks, right? You've probably seen blocks before. I'm going to dump it out over there. And I say, take 4 blocks and make them into something interesting. Now, it's an interesting question because you can use the letters or you can use the shapes. You can spell a word. You can put a profanity there. You can spell a word that means nothing. You can make the shape into a bridge. And people hate this because there's no right answer and there's a million wrong answers. They hate this because there's no dummy's guide to how to make something interesting out of blocks when you're 30 years old. And now we're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads because as a culture we say, only thing we care about, the only place we're willing to cross the street to go, the only thing we're willing to buy, the only person we're willing to vote for, the only stuff we're willing to talk about is interesting, is art, is new, will touch us, is valuable. And then we spend all of our money and all of our time teaching people not to do that. And so we're now at this crossroads because technology is here too. And the technology says, you know what? For the first time in history, we do not need a human being to stand next to us to teach us to do square roots. For the first time in history, we do not need a human being to teach us how to sharpen an axe because the internet connects us all. And so I want to share with you 8 things that I think are going to change completely if we decide how we want to answer this question, or maybe even if we don't. 1, as Sal Khan has pointed out, homework during the day, lectures at night. World-class lecturers lecturing on anything you want to learn to every single person in the world who's got an internet connection for free. And then all day, go and sit with a human being, a teacher, and ask your questions and do your work and explore face-to-face. It's stupid to have the same lecture being given handmade 10,000 times a day across the country when we can get one person to do it great for the people who want to hear it. Number 2, open book, open note all the time. There is zero value in memorizing anything ever again. Anything that is worth memorizing is worth looking up. So we shouldn't spend any time teaching people to memorize stuff. Number 3, access to any course anywhere in the world anytime you want to take it. So this notion that we have to do things in a certain order, which is based on physical location and chronology, makes no sense. Number 4, precise, focused education instead of mass batch stuff. That's the way we make almost everything we buy now, right? It used to be you could have any color car you want as long as it was black, so we could keep the assembly line going. But now, they make 10,000 kinds of cars, because they can. So we should make 10,000 kinds of education. No more multiple choice exams. Those were invented to make them easy to score, but computers are smarter than that. Measuring experience instead of test scores, because experience is what we really care about. The end of compliance as an outcome. The resume is proof that you have complied for years and years and years with famous brand names, and it gets you your next job. It's worthless now. And cooperation instead of isolation. Why do we do anything where we ask people to do it all by themselves when then we put them in the real world and say, cooperate? 4 more. Teacher's role transforms into coach. Lifelong learning with work happening earlier in your life. And really important, the death of the famous college. Not good college, We don't know what a good college is, but we know what a famous college is because someone ranked them as famous or because they have a football team that's famous. Why on earth are we paying extra? Why on earth are we working harder to comply and be obedient just so we can get a famous brand name that has no relevance to success or happiness put after our name? I want to show you one more device I have over here as I start to do this. This is called an Arduino, and it's a little bit like a Raspberry Pi. They're both electronic devices that cost $20 to $30 each. Raspberry Pi, which you can buy for $25, has on it the complete Linux operating system, a USB port, audio out, and a monitor. So if we take that cable and that keyboard and that monitor we already have in front of almost every kid in this country and hand them one of these, we can then say to them, go build something interesting and ask if you need help. Why wouldn't we want to teach our kids to go do something interesting? Why wouldn't we want to teach our kids to figure it out? And yet, every day we send kids to school and say, do not figure it out. Do not ask questions I do not know the answer to. Do not look it up. Do not vary from the curriculum. And better, comply. Fit in. Be like your peers. Do what you're told, because I must process you, because everything in my evaluation is based on whether or not I processed you properly. So there are two myths I want to close with. The first one, and we got to be really honest with ourselves about this. Myth one, great performance in school leads to happiness and success. If that's not true, we should stop telling ourselves it is. And two, great parents have kids who produce great performance in school. If that's not true, we should stop telling ourselves it is. Are we asking our kids to collect dots or connect dots? Because we're really good at measuring how many dots they collect, how many facts they have memorized, how many boxes they have filled in. But we teach nothing about how to connect those dots. You cannot teach connecting dots in a dummy's manual. You cannot teach connecting dots in a textbook. You can only do it by putting kids into a situation where they can fail. Grades are an illusion. Passion and insight are reality. Your work is more important than your congruence to an answer key. Persistence in the face of a skeptical authority figure is priceless, and yet we undermine it. Fitting in is a short-term strategy that gets you nowhere. Standing out is a long-term strategy that takes guts and produces results. If you care enough about your work to be willing to be criticized for it, then you have done a good day's work. So what now? What now? What should we do? Because we've been talking about it a whole lot. Only one thing. Ask the question. What is school for? When they say this is our new textbook, the question is that going to help us with getting what school is for? When they say this is the new superintendent, we need to say, yes, but is this superintendent going to help us do what we think school is for? And if you don't know what school is for, then have a conversation about it. Because until we can agree what school is for, we're not going to get what we need. Thank you for the work you do. I appreciate it.
So actually, with this presentation, I remember when I had one of my first classes in Poland, and I asked my master students, so fourth year, like you guys, I asked them a number of questions like, what is design? Who is a designer? What is interaction? What is experience? Like meaning design, experience design, and so on. And I just couldn't believe when I saw my students like taking out their mobile phones and looking for definitions. And I said, like, come on, like there is not a single answer. I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, how do you see yourself as designers? This is like I don't know how it was for in your education, but in Poland it's often pushed to the absurd point when this happens in the fourth year of academic education.
question it's very unusual for Japanese to ask questions.
Yeah.
So the Western person can ask a question, which
Yeah.
and also the Japanese is interesting because they sort of get towards the entrance exam for universities, so during undergraduate career as well. It's very, very hard to get high scores that can get to the top universities. When I was in Korea one time, the government passed a law mandating that high school students be owned by rather than studying like at these special study schools.
Wow.
What happened is that the students would go to school, high school all day, and then go to like second half study school and study 6 to 8 hours more. And 3 o'clock in the morning they would go home, sleep, go back to school. So the government passes laws, and then if you're running a private tuition school, you have to send your students home and like equal to sleep. So the whole focus in Japan is to get to the top university. And to get to the university, you basically do whatever you want because it's about the name.
Yeah.
So if you get to the University of Tokyo, then you can get fail grades or residential as long as up to 4 you get a job, you guarantee a great job because
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very different.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Say when you have to write very tough exam to get into the top colleges, and over there, it's like students are in their 12th standard, they used to go, even parents ask their child to start preparing from their 9th standard so that they can get into the university. They go to, there's a specific town which has lots of institutions which teaches them to midnight or maybe like overnight, just prepare them for the specific exam. After that, they can.
Yeah. So it used to be the same in Poland. We also had exams for the universities, like, and that if you wanted to go to the university, there was of course like a number of people per one seat. So then you would have to get the high scores in the exams. They changed it. But still, I like my school, like the design department, especially, but the art school, they still keep on having exams, and I had this major discussion with the professors that like we are testing whether the kids can draw, but we are not testing whether they can think, and like this is the problem that I always have that in the end, like with the students I'm teaching in a master class, that they come into my hands. And this is not a moment when I'm supposed to teach them how to solve problems. They should get a problem and be able to solve it. And they ask me for this one good answer, correct answer to the questions they have. Yeah, so there's a lot to change in education all over the world, I believe. Yeah, but I think that it's like like with places like here, when you can actually learn and like find these things, that's a really cool thing that brings together the knowledge with the experience and with trying things out, which is probably the best way to go. Okay, thank you. You are much more awake in the morning, I must say, myself too, by the way. Yeah, so the assignment you have, the grade, I only got the results for Richie yesterday night, so I'm going to look at them and then put the grades there. And yeah. If you have any questions with the project, did you make the teams?
Yeah.
Okay.